You're listening to Manzanita Voices, and my name is Linda Field. We are a program about writers and writing, and today we're talking with Rachel Mikkel ArceJaeger, author of Robin, a very unusual story about Robin Hood. Rachel, we were talking before about how you came to write this book and some of the things that you had to think about as you were writing it. Was there a development in the story that surprised you, or something that you thought would be in the book that got cut? Because I know personally as a writer, you think you're going to write something, and you sit down to write it, and the story takes off and has a life of its own. And the author sometimes, I know from my point of view, I sometimes feel as if I'm being taken for a ride. I'm not the driver. I am a passenger, and the story takes on its own life. So was there anything like that that happened in your book?
Yes, there was. As a quick recap, my book Robin is basically a retelling of the traditional stories of Robin Hood from the premise that Robin Hood is a girl. And so my book takes these old stories and ties them together in a much stronger and comprehensive way, using this female Robin as the central character. And so my book took off. Well, when I conceived of the idea for Robin, I thought, okay, I know there are some ways that this can work out well. For instance, it would explain why Robin always wore a hood, and how Robin could escape from the sheriff if he was looking for a guy, and she could become a woman again just by doffing her hood. So I had these ideas about how this story could work, but I wasn't really sure if it would work out all the way. I was afraid that I would get halfway through my book and realize there was just this insurmountable wall that simply could not be scaled if Robin Hood was a girl. And I was very surprised and very pleased that by the end of my book, not only had everything worked out wonderfully with this female character, but it had actually worked out in many ways much better than the traditional stories had with a traditional male lead. I feel Robin Hood, being female, actually explained a lot more about the traditional stories and enriched them in ways that the male Robin Hood never had.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Well, Rachel Mikkel ArceJaeger, let's hear you read a little bit from Robin.
I think I mentioned before that one of my considerations in writing the story was how Robin would escape from the sheriff, how she was able to disappear under his very nose. So this scene I'm going to read to you is one of those scenes where she does just that. Robin had not really expected the situation she found herself in to arise, but she had come prepared just in case. As she ran from the guards now, she corrected herself. The soldier had collected reinforcements. Robin dug into the sack at her waist with her free hand and pulled out the spare dress she had bought nearly 3 months ago. She was perhaps 30 seconds ahead of her pursuers. People turned with various imprecations to regard her as Robin darted around them, but none tried to stop her forward progress. As she neared the edge of the town, the crowd began to thin, and Robin jinked between several houses and into a small abandoned alley. Hastily she dropped her bow and drew the shapeless dress over her head, tucking her hood underneath its neck and pulling out her hair. At the last second she remembered she was still wearing the false eye patch and tore it off. The pounding of feet signaled the soldier's arrival. Nonchalantly Robin stepped in front of her bow, trusting to the growing darkness and her skirts to hide the weapon. "Where did he go?" "He just disappeared." "You, woman, did you see a man pass by?" The Guildhall's guard, no longer bored, demanded of her crossly. The soldier was panting heavily and clutching at a stitch in his side. "He was dressed all in scarlet, with a patch over one eye and a bow in his hand." "Scarlet? A man? No man has passed through here, sir," Robin said in a dazed tone, cowering away as if the guard frightened her. The soldier took in her disheveled appearance, and a look of scorn stole over his face. "I doubt that," he mocked, but he had no time for a woman and hastened down the street, beckoning the other guards to follow him. Robin waited until the sound of their footsteps faded away, and then picked up her longbow, checking with her fingers to see if it had come to harm when she dropped it. Relieved that it had not, she ambled off in the direction of Nottingham Gate, feeling utterly invisible in the skirts that lapped around her ankles. The gate porter peered down at her from his perch, puzzled at the sight of a woman exiting the city with a longbow in her hand. "Me husband forgot his weapon, drunken sot. Just 'cause he finished, he thinks he can drop his things and leave me to carry on," Robin complained petulantly to him. The man snorted. "Get thee gone, wetch. I dare say your husband will be wanting to use that." "I am sure he will," she replied sourly, making the porter laugh. With a smirk concealed by the darkness, Robin walked through the gates and out of Nottingham, a free woman.
So Robin has to be quite an actress, too, and really think on her feet.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting where you said that she felt invisible with the skirt swishing around her ankles, and I'm sure a lot of women did feel invisible back in those days, and sometimes in more recent times, too. Robin had a lot to contend with.
She did.
Do you write every day, Rachel?
Not every day, in that I don't sit down always and type on my keyboard or write out with my pen parts of my story or imaginings, but not a day goes by when I don't think about a story. I'm usually conceiving of some scene or trying to work out some plot point, whether I sit down and actually write it out or not.
Yeah, I hear you there. I do the same thing. Do you have a special place that you really enjoy writing, place that you go to, or can you write pretty much anywhere?
I can write pretty much anywhere, although I do like it to be quiet, which is very nice because I live in the forest, and so it is generally very quiet there. I just wish I could write outside more because I like to write on my computer because I can write very fast there and I can make edits very, very quickly. But computer screens don't work very well in the sunlight. It's hard to see. Somebody's going to have to come up with a solution to that problem. I think it'd make a lot of people happy. I agree. I know I like to write often. I like to go to a restaurant and order a cup of coffee or something and just sit there writing. Or if I have to fly somewhere on a plane, I like to sit by the window with my notebook and just write away. It's fun to do things like that. Who has inspired you the most? Is there someone in your life or even someone you haven't met, a writer, someone you've read about, who has inspired you in your writing? In my writing, or just maybe just in your general life, you know, what people have been inspirations in your life? Well, inspiring me as a person, the biggest would definitely be Jesus, because I try and mold my life according to the Bible and his teachings, and he has had the most profound influence on the person I am and the person I'm trying to become. But the greatest inspirations and influences on my writings would definitely be the authors I've read. I have read thousands and thousands of books. Literally, I can remember 8th grade, we had to keep a reading chart, and I think I read 700 books that year. Who are a couple of your favorite authors? I really enjoy Tamora Pierce, her Tortall series. It's this fantasy series about these women who become knights and who become just these diplomats and these really important, powerful women who are still quirky and they're funny and they're adventurous. And it's really inspirational to read them, and it's fun. It reminds you that you can be a woman and be strong and not have to lose anything that makes you a woman. And so I really enjoy reading her works. I enjoy Anne McCaffrey and J.K. Rowling and authors like them because they really draw you into their story. They make you care about their characters and their worlds, and they're the kind of authors I would like to be. That's great. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to Manzanita Voices. I'm Linda Field. We're talking about writers and writing, and today we're speaking with author Rachel McKell, ArceJaeger. You're a member of a writing group. I know that because you and I are in the same group. We are. It's called Writers Unlimited. It meets two Mondays a month, the second Monday and the fourth Monday of every month at 6:30 at the Arts Council on Main Street in San Andreas.
and we're always looking for new members. You joined the writers group, what, about a year ago?
I think in January.
Okay, and everybody in that group except you has at least got a decade or two on you in age. Was it kind of intimidating to join this group with all these old fogies around?
Well, the part that was intimidating wasn't being around these people who had a few years on me. It was being around all these experienced authors who many have had published at least one, if not more, books, and knowing that to them I looked like a very, very young, unpublished, untried authoress. And so that was the intimidating part, was being around all these people who had such great experience and such great writing talent.
Well, that's all good to hear. I'm glad that you enjoy being in the group, and you certainly have been a wonderful addition to our gatherings. We're going to break now. This is Manzanita Voices. I'm Linda Field, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more from Rachel, Mikkel, ArceJaeger.